And immigration's policy has always been not to split a family. So they're saying that seeing as Mr. Lennon is not eligible, because I was bussed in England in 1968, planted, by the way, but bussed. I pleaded guilty on lawyer's advice. She was 3 months pregnant and all that. It was a real drag, but I did it. And I paid my $100 fine or whatever it was. And then they say, well, because I'm not eligible, rather than split a family, although there's nothing against Yoko Ono, you'd both better get out. We're saying, but if you don't want to split a family, let us stay here, because our daughter's here. She has to choose between me and the daughter. And A, she doesn't know where the daughter is. We don't have a clue. We just know she's in America, somewhere.
See, even if she's not in America, I really don't know where she is. But the thing is, from a mutual friend we've heard, and of course, you know, that's the cleverest way, is that my ex-husband was saying that, well, all they have to do is hide and wait until we're kicked out, and then this will be a heaven for them, because they don't have to worry about us coming
we don't
in,
want to
because
even
we can never come here, you know.
Yoko always said in all the transcripts of the court cases, too, we don't want to take the child away from Tony.
No,
it's
I'm
just,
not a possessive.
he's paranoid about it. He thinks we're big, powerful people that are going to do something to him, and we're not. We're saying it now if you're watching, and everybody can... There's nothing John and Yoko could do to Kyoko. We couldn't hide her anywhere like you because we're too famous. There's nowhere we can go. And Yoko always said in court and out of court, she thinks the child should have both parents, be able to see both parents.
Access.
And we don't care what kind of arrangement he wants to make, just so the child does have the benefit of both parents.
But at the moment you're split between either... Well, as you said, choosing between your husband and
they're
your
saying, no matter what, you know,
point.
you're a criminal and you've got to go.
Well, let's talk some more about that. It's very... Excuse me,
Go ahead.
Yoko, because we have to take this pause now, and then we'll be back. Sorry. Here's a picture of your little girl, Kyoko.
This is Yoko, and she's 8 years old. And you see, in Texas court, a teacher testified that she's 3 years behind her studies because she's been running around the world so much, you know, and that's one of the reasons I'm very worried about her.
I think it would be on your mind all the time.
It is.
Really
I mean,
yes.
There's no way out.
Well, John has to switch the TV to another channel or something whenever I see a child, because these days I just can't stand seeing a child, you know.
Mm-hmm. And it comes out every night in nightmares, you know. I mean, it really does. If we work all day so to not think about it, it has to come out some way, and it comes out every night about 5 o'clock.
And you know, John's this drug case, which is possession of marijuana case in 1968, it's 4 years ago, and it was planted, and the surgeon who actually came to arrest us is now suspended from his previous job.
He also
because,
did the same to George Harrison.
You know, there's some question about his method of arrest, and they're all saying, the immigration office saying, well, this is only because of the drug case, you know, and nothing else. But the strange thing is people like Donovan, Keith Richard, Mick Jagger,
George Harrison all have exactly the same
exactly the same record around the same time, and they can come and go,
policeman,
you know,
I think, you know.
anytime they can.
It was. He was a headhunter.
Yeah.
What is it they're after you for? Or
they're after us because we talk about peace, you know. I mean, because we want peace, you know. We've said the same thing for 2 years, different one way or another, and we believe in it.
The only thing we promoted was peace and love, and there have been some rumors like we might go to San Diego to, you know, disrupt the...
We're getting blamed for the Chicago convention now.
Things like that.
It's no kidding. When we approach people for help, somebody somewhere rings them up and says, these people are criminals. If we were given a job on the Drug Abuse Council to help people try and explain drugs in a realistic way to kids, because nobody else is doing it, then immediately we got the offer. Somebody rings up the people that offered us and say, what are you letting those criminals on for? Don't you know the this, that, and the other? Don't you know the... And somebody else rings up and starts talking about they had something to do with Chicago. And the first time we'd ever heard of Chicago is we saw a play of it done on British TV. That's the first time I'd ever heard. They think we're going to San Diego or Miami, wherever it is. We've never said we're going. We ain't going. There'll be no big jam with us and Dylan because there's too much going on. We never said we were going on. That's it.
There was an editorial in the Times the other day, and I know there have been in other papers.
That was great, yeah.
Which I completely agree with. I mean, I think it's shocking if you're being deported, and it's ironic that it would happen in the same year that Chaplin was given an award after 20 years after a similar kind of nonsense.
You're more responsible for the expression of love and peace in the arts than anyone practically in the 20th century.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Well,
Let me try and
anyway.
get this one over here. You see, this is a bit hard for me to explain, but our lawyer's name is Leon Wilds, and he's not a radical lawyer, he's not a William Kunstler, or nothing like that. We went to an immigration lawyer who knew about immigration, and he has really been surprised, because he worked in immigration 15 years. He's really been surprised by some of the things that have gone on. And it's very ironic that the government approved our application as outstanding artists whose presence is beneficial to U.S. cultural interests and the public welfare. The federal judge has approved that, and the government has, but we had to fight for it. And it's the only time that he's ever had to go to court to force the government to consider an application like that, obtained by an injunction, meaning that as one way for us to come in is as outstanding artists or scientists. There's a special clause. Now, we put that in our case, and nobody looked at it. And it's the law that they have to look at the application. They didn't look at it, and our lawyer went down and said, you haven't looked at it. So he took them to court. And the judge and the federal judge said they have to look at it and they have to take this into consideration. Yes, they are outstanding artists and would be a benefit to this country. And it's the only time he's had to go in and fight for it.
Also, you know, if there are anybody who's interested in helping us, petition does help too. And we have about 10,000 people roughly.
There was a telegram from a union leader.
Oh, yeah. You want to mention it? It's
yes,
great.
could you?
We've run into another station problem here. We have to take a message. We'll be back.